I've got mail. I wonder what this could be. I think I know. Coming from University of Glasgow. I finished my degree a couple of months ago, and I'm expecting some sort of certificate. You did it! Congratulations, you've graduated. Higher Education Achievement Report. Brilliant. Got a distinction for my masters. It's so funny. The university gives you a student number. I'm sure your university does the same. And in Glasgow, it starts with the year that you started your first course, and mine was 1998. That's when I started my undergrad in sports science and physiology. Studied that for 4 years, graduated, and then I did a master's degree in sport and exercise science, or it was actually called medicine and science in sport and exercise. A couple of years after that, then I had a long break from academia to go and be a professional climber. And then in the last few years, I've actually been back at university doing a top master's in human nutrition, and that's what I've just graduated from just now. When I was doing my undergrad degree in around 2000, I must have been in like my second year or something, my friend Ken Crockett, who is a lot older than me, I was going ice climbing with him, and I had heard that he had 3 degrees. I just thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So it feels very, very strange for me to have just received my own 3rd degree. When I was doing my undergrad, the idea of doing more than 1 degree just seemed like such an insanely long and arduous process that how could you ever do that 3 times? But it's funny how being a lot older, it just doesn't seem like such a big deal. Anyway, that's brilliant. I've been studying nutrition for around 5 years in quite a kind of detailed way. And doing the degree was only one part of that. As I say, the reading that I've done outside of that, I'm actually just sitting with my EndNote in front of me, and yeah, there's over 2,000 papers in it that I've read, and so the study outside of that has been a far bigger part of my last few years than actually what I did formally in university. The primary reason that I went to study nutrition at university was really to see how the world of mainstream professional nutrition operated. Something that I'm more and more acutely aware of as I get older is that when you have a career as a sort of professional sports person, you're really, really used to doing things in your own way and actually doing things differently. In fact, you're actually looking the whole time for how you can do things differently from other people, because you're constantly trying to better the performance of what's been done before. And at a very fundamental, basic level, if you do the same as what's done before, you will get roughly the same results. You know, genetic differences and other things aside, but you're always looking for stones to turn over to find, is there something else? Is there something else I can do? Something I can refine or improve? In most cases, you'll find nothing. Occasionally, you'll find something small, and very, very occasionally, you'll find something big. And so I think that's one great thing that professional sport brings to science and applied science, is that default tendency to take the evidence but look for the gaps between it and explore those gaps. And that's what I feel like I've been doing in my own nutrition journey for a few years. But it's also really important for me to see how the mainstream professional nutrition world works, and whether those same approaches to it are there or absent. Broadly, I wanted to expose myself to the ways of thinking and the research that other people in the nutrition space rely upon and look at. And it was great to go and do that, and yeah, I would recommend doing it. It was really good. Anyway, the main point I wanted to make there is that I have been reasonably cautious about speaking a lot about nutrition, despite the fact that I'm doing lots of experiments on it all the time on myself and reading lots of research, in part just because I wanted to feel like I'd got somewhere with understanding it before speaking about it too much. It's just due diligence, basically. But I do think it probably is a good time to start to talk about that more. I know that I have promised that on this channel many times, and I will follow through on that. In fact, this morning I was starting to get comments from some of you guys saying that I've not posted a video in a couple of weeks, and that's actually because I've been working every day on writing a sort of script really for a video talking about 5 years of experimenting with ketogenic diets in particular, for climbing and also for health in general. So I'm well on with that. It's not finished yet, but it's coming, and that's why there's been a gap in me posting videos. And generally on this channel I tend to err on the side of videos that I've put some thought and preparation into, that have a specific point, and I don't really do too many of kind of off-the-cuff vlogging style videos, even though this is kind of a vlog. It's kind of whatever you guys want it to be. If you would like me to do more kind of off-the-cuff daily vlog style videos, then please do let me know in the comments, because I could make more of them. I'm still feel slightly self-conscious about that, and so I just tend to default towards more sort of prepared videos, if you like. But I thought I would try one today, and I thought, given that I'm at home in the office doing a bunch of stuff today, I could talk a bit about my daily routine, both as a climber but also as a professional climber. I do actually have on my list of vlogs to do quite a dedicated series on how to be a professional climber, and I'd like to go through all the different aspects of that, which are so numerous, from basic physiology and training, how to train, how to look after your body so that it lasts and it stays healthy to support your athletic performance, and in a more philosophical way, how to break new ground. Not that I feel that I've broken much new ground, although I have obviously done new routes, but how to approach it, how to approach your sport in a way that you're at least trying to do that. So that's on my list of things to do, but I guess it's probably interesting to just see like what is the daily routine of someone that I mean, if someone asks me my job, I still don't really know how to answer, depending on who it is and what mood I'm in. I might say I write books, I might say I'm a professional athlete. Yeah, I don't know, I do lots of different types of work really. I mean, on the face of it, I am a marketer. I represent brands, my sponsors. I also, in a sense, have my own brand in a funny sort of way. I make internet content. I make videos that hopefully share information that's useful to people. The climbing is a vehicle to achieve those aims, while at the same time being really good fun and what I like to spend my time doing. So the climbing and everything else that I do around the climbing, they hopefully work in tandem and support each other as much as possible, although obviously occasionally they're not always working in that way, and that work is just work and it needs to be done, and it takes time and effort. So my daily routine, it usually starts with getting up at about 7 a.m. to get my daughter up and off to school for 8 o'clock. So I get up and make Claire and my daughter Frida some breakfast, and then Frida goes off to school at 8 o'clock. And then usually there's one of two things happens. Either the weather is good and I'm straight out the door going climbing at the crag, and if that's the case, then I'll just go out climbing all day. In the winter, that is, well, the light is a bit shorter. In the summer, I quite often do a morning's work here at the computer, and then go off climbing for the afternoon, and I'll go climbing from maybe midday or early afternoon until midnight. And in the winter, I'll go off climbing straight away and come back sometime in the mid to late evening, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. For instance, tomorrow I'm going to go bouldering on my project up at Rooftown, and I'll probably leave at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll go and climb all day, and I'll come back late at night. Then the following day, I'll take a rest day and I'll work here on the computer. A big chunk of the time that I spend here at home is just doing research. for the last 4 or 5 years, I've often spent around 3 to 4 hours a day, probably 4 hours a day, I would say, just reading research findings. So I'm just on PubMed and lots of other places like journal websites, just looking at scientific journal articles and reading them, organising them, storing them, and trying to synthesize them into something I can understand. So that's how I've come to have a couple of thousand papers in my reference library, because I just spend day after day just reading them, and over time you kind of build up an understanding of the aspects of, in this case, physiology that I'm trying to understand. So I'd say since like 2016 to 2019, I spent all the days, more or less, that I was in the house and not out climbing, just reading research. And some days I would do that all day, and I would just ignore any other work that came through and just read research findings. One thing that I'm kind of conscious of is that in these days there are a lot of pulls on your time. I could spend all of my time easily just answering questions on my social media channels, both on YouTube and on Instagram. For instance, I've started to post a few things on Instagram around nutrition, and there are just so many comments, and I do spend a lot of time trying to answer them. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm Climber McLeod, at Climber McLeod on Instagram. So between that and email and all sorts of other things, I do spend quite a lot of time ignoring my email and focusing on sort of deeper tasks that I want to make progress on. And actually one of the things I'm doing this morning is signing books. I should also say that until the end of this month, there's, on my own website, there's 20% off both of my books, Make or Break and 9 out of 10 Climbers Make the Same Mistakes. They still are really popular, and so many of you buy them, and also so many of you write to me to say that they have been useful, which is brilliant. I can't tell you how over the moon I am that they have been so helpful. So while I was writing both of those books, I totally focused on them, especially the first one, 9 out of 10. I worked for about 14 hours a day, every single day, 7 days a week, right through the whole process of writing that, and I did 2 hours training at night. So I worked on writing all day until 11 p.m, and then I trained from 11 p.m. till 1 a.m, and I just did that all the time until it was finished. I used to be more of a night owl than I am now, and I don't think I could do that now. And so when I was researching and writing my second book, Make or Break, about injuries in climbing and how to prevent them and manage them, I didn't do it in quite the same way. I tried to kind of fit it more into a normal life of dipping in and out of writing, and I have to say that it was one of the worst mistakes I think I've ever made in my working life. It took so much longer than it should have done to actually write, and I spent huge amounts of time just trying to catch up in my concentration to where I was in the previous session. And I think it would have been much more efficient if I'd just completely focused on that task until it was done. And I really try and organise my life in a way that allows me to do that, because it is by far the most productive way. So for instance, this year in the lockdown, I was doing my exams for university, and then I was doing my research project and dissertation, which so many of you helped me with, and I really appreciate that. And I just did that 16 hours a day, every day, from around the middle of March until I handed in my research project towards the end of August. And I guess that is why I got a distinction for my Masters. Yeah, basically working in this way really works. It really pays off, and I've always tried to do that. So this morning I'm going to spend the whole morning until maybe around 2 p.m. Just working on the video which will follow in due course on ketogenic diets, which I'm preparing at the moment. I'm just going through the papers again and integrating them into the video. Then later on this afternoon I'll do a short fingerboard session, just that, because it's still kind of a rest day for me. Tomorrow I want to be back on my project at Rooftown, so I want to be really fresh. I'm actually trying to do that project now, so it's worth having a rest day before. I'll also go out for a run for maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours, something like that, shortly after I do my fingerboard session. And so that will just be a very gentle run, probably math kind of pace. And then I'll come back, I'll probably have dinner with family and do some stuff with my daughter. And then once she goes off to bed, I'll go back to work and I'll work some more on research until it's around 11 p.m. and then I'll go to bed and have 8 hours sleep. One important thing I think I should say about my routine is that it's very, very heavily, or basically totally dictated by the seasons and the weather over a kind of day-to-day to week-to-week schedule. So what I've just said about doing lots of research and working from home and doing all of that, if the weather changes, all bets are off. So right now I can hear the rain outside, and that's why I'm in here working away. And I love that. That's one of my favourite aspects of my routine and my sort of lifestyle, is that when the weather's poor, I'm really focused on my work and I make good progress with that and I plough through it all. And then if the weather turns good in a sustained way with the high pressure, then work is done. I'm not touching it. I'm going out climbing all the time. So over the past month, I've been trying the C10 trad project with Robbie Phillips up at Duntelchig. I've not posted anything about that because, well, the route's not done yet. But that's been going absolutely brilliant. I've top roped it several times in a row and I'm pretty much ready to lead. This is Robbie's project though, so I'm going to wait until Robbie's done it and then I'll try and repeat it. But I'm really psyched to get on lead on it now. But I've just been working on it with him, and I've been up a couple of days on my own as well. And I was doing that sort of quite frequently when the weather was good. But now it's turned to mixed. I've completely switched focus and I'm just watching the weather forecast, and say like every second day or sometimes every third day there's a good day and I'll go out bouldering that day, and then I'll schedule in a day of training and work and then a day of just work and then another day bouldering, and that's how my sort of day-to-day scheduling pans out. But during the spring, when we were in lockdown, I was in double lockdown because I was doing exam study. I wasn't going out climbing at all, and I was just training, just on the board for I think maybe 8 weeks straight, climbing 4 days a week, maybe into 5 in a few of the weeks. Mostly 4 days a week, but quite long sessions. And the rest of the time I was just fitting that into doing between 12 and 16 hours work a day doing research. And the other important thing I should say is that I don't really take time off, if you will. There's so many different strategies with work. You know, for some people it makes sense to do work that just feels like work and it just pays the bills, but it pays well, and they do that and then they finish their work and then they go and enjoy what they want to enjoy. I tend to have ended up in a lifestyle that's a bit different from that, and I do actually enjoy all my work. I enjoy doing all of the research, and although I find it difficult, I do enjoy making these videos as well. So it doesn't really feel like work, so I don't really take days off. My days out climbing, although they're intense trying projects, they're also incredibly relaxing, and I don't feel like I need to rest from them. It feels like they are the rest in a funny sort of way. Like in the summer when I was going up to Binningshuis and working on all the trad routes there, I mean, that was just a brilliant relaxing experience. I'd do work here until 4 or 5 p.m. and then I'd drive up the road, sit and chill and drink a cup of tea for 10 minutes, cycle up the track, walk in listening to something I wanted to listen to, and then I would just sort of chill and just enjoy the scenery for 20 minutes while I got my gear out. And then I would hang around in the rope all evening, and then I'd put my rope away as it was getting dark around 11, half 11 at night, and I'd stroll off down the hill into the twilight and go to bed. And you know, that was just bliss. It was absolutely brilliant. So, and I love that, how the seasons change. If you're an all-round climber and you do trad in the summer, sport climbing in the autumn and spring, bouldering and mixed climbing in the winter, then you're visiting all these different places and you're doing this different style of climbing, and the variety of it just really helps to sustain you, I think. I wonder, what about downsides? Something I've never really thought that much about. Are there any downsides to the way that I kind of have my work set up? I suppose there is the downside that you're never ever finished. You know, you always have more to do, and that's not for everyone. And sometimes that does get a little bit wearing, but not in a big way. What other downsides are there? I suppose the biggest downside is that if you focus on one thing in order to do it well, then by definition you're not focusing on the other things and you're getting worse at them, or you're missing out on them. And so there definitely are aspects of my lifestyle where, you know, you are making a bit of a sacrifice in one area in order to make progress in another. So that's a few general thoughts for now about my daily routine and how it works. If you have more questions, please do ask me them. If you'd like me to do more of this style of just general talking about what I do and why and things like that, then also let me know. And stand by for my video on ketogenic dieting. I have actually been doing another form of ketogenic diet over the past few weeks in another very interesting experiment, and that will be another video which I'll go through. But it's really interesting, all this stuff. And one thing that I can say for sure is that if you get it right, it makes a big difference. All right, I shall carry on with some work, and we'll see you in the next video.